for Tuesday, April 9th to be precise. And oh, look, my mood is a little bit like the weather. It's a little bit sunny, it's a little bit cloudy, it's a little bit gray, blue, and it's a little bit red. And we'll get to why red is such a significant color today. I want to read you this. On this day, April 9th, darling, which is the 100th day on a leap year, in a leap year. So it's the 99th day. We love the number 9. As I said yesterday, it's a real number of magic, and it's a number. Can you open your curtain so we can see you a little bit? But it's a real number of magic and alchemy and maths, etc., etc. Well, of course, it's a number of maths.
So today is the 99th day, and
the
100th day.
Well, it's the 100th day because it's a leap year we're in.
Right.
And but I want to read you this, right? In 193. The distinguished soldier Septimius Severus is proclaimed emperor by the army in one of those places, Illyricum. So Septimius Severus was a Roman politician who served as the emperor from 193 to 211. He was born in Leptis Magna in the Roman province of Africa.
What?
Yeah.
What?
The Roman province of Africa. Africa was a Roman province on the northern coast of the continent of Africa. It was established in 146 BC, following the Roman Republic's conquest of Carthage and the Third Punic War. Our history just consists of war.
Yeah.
Everything is war. Now,
which is apparent in
what is apparent? Absolutely, because people don't realize that the etymology of the noun Africa, it's one of the most popular suggestions for the origins of the term Africa, because Africa is the name given to the continent, is that it is derived from the Roman name. So it's a Roman name for a tribe living in the northern reaches of Tunisia, believed to possibly be the Berber people. The Romans variously named these people Afri, Afer, and Ifer.
Wow.
It's a Roman name.
Well, of course, right? Everything is,
it's like when we talk about the First Nations people, we will get to the news in a moment. This is all about what's happening today. But it is like...
so like Bombay
was anglicized, yes. And all names in the country that is Australia is...
Calcutta.
Calcutta, which was Kolkata, and that's what it's... so Calcutta, everything gets anglicized. Yeah. And... of course, all the name places here are anglicized as well. Sure, yeah. Even if they've been heard, but they're names in the Pacific that have been anglicized or just plain misheard and misinterpreted, and therefore communicated any which way. But there is something else. Oh, First Nations people of the state of America are. Sorry, I may be brushing against. So I might just excuse me. We do these things here. Their names, as we had, said in a live previously, are all French, all Franco in origin. The original names of First Nations people of the state of America have been lost in, well, not all of them, of course, because they still keep their languages, but the real names are not known by people.
I mean, they even now call themselves Red Indian.
Right, they call themselves Red Indians. We do know this. We're uncomfortable with saying that term. Yeah. But we have met Native Americans, First Nations people of the state of America, and they refer to themselves as Red Indians. It was interesting. That doesn't mean we do, just because also, like, it's the same. Black American people have every right to take any name that was ever used against them in derogatory ways, still is. They can use those terms to uphold themselves and uplift themselves in any way they want. It is not for anyone else who is not Black American to say them. And with that, we will get onto the news. We'll start with ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, which is one of my favorite sources of information in Australia. However, ABC is now under a little bit of scrutiny because they have not played fair with their staff, who choose to be on the side of humanity and are anti-genocide. So they've been doing some interesting things there. Staff of ABC have themselves said, Auntie, which is the nickname for ABC in Australia, is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and that's be the voice of the people. You know why? Because news people, what you're currently watching, except for the Daily Egg, of course, when we get to the news people are not your friends anymore, my friend. They're not your friends anymore. Anyway, because if they're not being told what to do by their owners, then they're also being dictated to by their viewer, who, if they're being, you know, we don't want to offend anyone now, do we? So they're supposed to be impartial. News has to stop being impartial, I feel. I feel that the people reading the news have to stop being impartial because it makes us all look like robots. And in a world full of AI, come on, humans, feel something. So let's go. ABC says, stay in the know. Signatures forged off passports and an international scam. How an Australian company was used to funnel cash offshore. Is this news? Is this new? No, but that's the world. You know what? We have to find some doomsday shit from everything that is happening in the world. With ABC, what am I saying here? So I'm only reading the headlines. I'm curating headlines of the various sources I go to. Not all of them, of course, otherwise we would be here, I don't know, 3 weeks. So just some, and I should stop saying, I'm sorry about that. This morning, I do confess, I know that your newsreader should never, ever, ever, they're only talking heads, and we must never, ever show our emotions. And that's the robot going, malfunction. Sorry, darling, were you about to tell me something?
No.
I was prior to this just a little bit like, I had an adrenaline spike, and then, you know, I realized how much of our emotions dictate our emotions dictate everything we do. Feelings dictates everything, and the current state of the world is because of the state of our feelings. PSA, fix yourself first before you want to fix the world. Let's get back to the world. Details of defense deal with Israel kept under wraps to protect Australia's reputation. Oh, this I've got to read. Okay, let's see what goes on here. And of course, we're leading with a photograph of that Netanyahu dude. I know. I don't know what to call him. I don't want to make nicknames like I have one for Trump, Orange Joffrey, but we're being serious here about the news. So we're just going to say Trump because I am not doing this thing that we now have to do, and that is hide the words, etc. I will talk about this later on the juice. I'll pose a question. So in short, let's go back to this headline. Australia's Defence Department has refused to publicly release a copy of the deal struck with Israel on defence industry cooperation because it could harm Australia's international standing and reputation. Just that very headline that has already now harmed Australia's reputation. Australia is defending, not just supplying the defence, but is also on the side, and it's refusing to publicly release a copy, citing that it's going to make Australians look bad. No, not Australians, but the government that the Australians have voted in. The Israeli government was also consulted about whether to release the document, the Australian Information Commissioner has revealed. Greens Senator David Shoebridge, he really is a leader, has argued the Australian public has a right to know about Australia's military trade relationship with Israel. Is that an understatement? Details of an agreement struck between Australia and Israel on defence industry cooperation will not be released publicly over concerns the information could damage. Okay, I've already read that. Gosh, this more. Just rehash. Shortly after the outbreak of the Gaza war in October, the Greens, which is one of our political parties here, the Greens, I'll be talking about green stocks later, so you know what Greens are. Greens, we look to the Greens and anyone like that, the left wingers, to actually save humanity from the people that we have voted in to government. Shortly after the outbreak of the Gaza war in October, the Greens submitted a Freedom of Information request for a copy of the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Australia and Israel in 2017. Following a 3-month process, the Defence Department formally rejected the application, arguing that the document, which contains sensitive diplomatic information, is exempt under Freedom of Information legislation. Freedom of information, full stop. As I have said yesterday in yesterday's Daily Egg, there is a little, whatever you want to call it, bit of the state of America in the middle of Australia. It's called Pine Gap, my friends. Go Google. Maybe it's all sensationalist. Maybe it's not anything. But why the secrecy, huh? Now, what's happening on NITV? Okay, fight to repatriate. We've already talked about that. So Mark Anthony Haynes died over 3 decades ago. A new inquest into his death has begun. NITV is the indigenous television, and it's with SBS, which is our special broadcasting services channel, which is the multicultural and the ethnic channel. And that's where the First Nations of the people of Australia, First Nations people of Australia, that's where they get their little slice of media platform. So Mark Anthony Haynes is a teenager, and a fresh inquest into the death of an Indigenous teenager will seek to find out how he ended up on train tracks in regional New South Wales more than 3 decades ago. Mark Anthony Haynes' body was found south of Tamworth in January 1988. An autopsy showed the Gomeroi 17-year-old died from a traumatic head injury. A stolen car was found nearby, and police concluded the teenager had laid on the tracks either deliberately or in a dazed state, something his family has never believed. After all we know about how Indigenous youth especially get treated in the country that is Australia by Australian police people. Yeah, Mark Anthony Haynes didn't just lie down on those tracks. We'll be back sometime later this week with a deep dive and full information on what is happening, because there are a lot of inquests happening currently about the behavior and the actions of the police, individual police people. Again, I do state this. Let's be accountable for individuals. Unfortunately, the police body does make it that if you do go against the police, you go against an individual, you go against the whole police force. I think we need to ungroup this way, because we have to understand why people are being accepted into positions of authority and leadership and power over other people without full psychological tests and about everything, about how they feel about everything. We'll be back with more deep dives for One Take News sometime later this week. Now, moving on to Sydney Morning Herald, which says it is independent always, but what it should be saying is, well, we're impartial because we don't want to take sides. I do love Sydney Morning Herald, but come on. So, exclusive on the Russia-Ukraine war. Let's be, okay, it is now a Russia-Ukraine war, but at one stage it was Putin's invasion, and that's what we call it. So, how $9 billion in Russian assets held in Australia can be used. We have got to read this. Because, okay, billions of dollars in Russian assets frozen by Australian authorities should be confiscated and put towards financial support for Ukraine, a group of prominent Australians say, as they urge the federal government to join other allies of Kyiv to boost aid for the war-torn nation. Gosh, I hope I pronounced Kyiv correctly. The group, which includes former prime ministers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, listen to the group. Former prime ministers, business union and military leaders, and former diplomats. We're going to believe them. We're going to believe anything they say. So this is what people do. They jump on a bandwagon that makes them look good. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Go back to the headlines, because I'm just reading out headlines around the world. Now, Japan is set to join AUKUS. What is AUKUS? It's a very awkward acronym. It won't be the last country to do so. I'll explain what AUKUS is and why that is so detrimental to the world, especially Australia. We don't have money for anything, for Indigenous people, for the First Nation people of this world, for the refugees, for Medicare, for healthcare, for anything, because we got to buy submarines, folks. So, Japan's progress to full rearmament, remaking it as a normal country, because in this world, if you don't have nuclear arms or anything that could destroy your neighbors, you're not a country. Continues apace. Tokyo is simply pushing past Japan's constitutional constraint that it forever renounces war as a sovereign right. So according to the powers that be, a sovereign right of a country is the right to bear arms. And that sounds suspiciously like only one country's sovereign right or stipulation on how to be. So, one consequence of the country's post-war peace constitution is that Japan is the world's fourth biggest economy, yet only the ninth biggest defense spender. Hey, big spender, show me your nuclear arms. Well, there you go. So, going back to AUKUS, what is it? It's not saying much here. Its latest step involves Australia. The three AUKUS nations have begun formal talks designed to explore bringing Japan into the group's top secret program for developing high-tech weaponry, known as Pillar 2 of AUKUS. What is going on? What is going on in this world? We are supposed to be heading towards peace. People are arming themselves. Australia is, because this is what AUKUS is, okay? So the US submarine construction is up to 3 years behind schedule, and it raises more questions over this AUKUS pact. Now, I do need to tell you what this AUKUS pact is, because off the top of my head, I don't really have that information right now. So let me just tell you, and this is where I would have perhaps liked you to do this for me. My darling, AUKUS, right? So, what is it? It is styled. So AUKUS is a trilateral security partnership for the Indo-Pacific region between Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. AUKUS, AUKUS, AUKUS. Australia, United Kingdom, and the United States. AUKUS. Announced on 15 September 2021, the partnership involves the US and the UK assisting Australia in acquiring nuclear-powered submarines. That was signed 15 September 2021 when we were locked up due to the pandemic. Actually, I think we just came out of it.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes of COVID. They were not worried about, vaccines, and they're all laughing at all the anti-vaxxers and the conspiracies and all that bullshit. They weren't going to kill us through vaccinations. Are you dumb? They're going to kill us through other means like nuclear shit. What is going on? Seriously.
They need us to buy their fuel.
They need us to buy the fuel that built up of the glut. So, by the way, China has called the AUKUS pact dangerous and warned it could spur a regional arms race. US President Biden has sought to step up partnerships with US allies in Asia, including Japan and the Philippines, amid China's historic military buildup and its growing territorial assertiveness. I'm reading that from Reuters. We'll get to what is happening in Reuters. We'll keep up with this too. AUKUS will be another One Take News deep dive, so join us this weekend for the deep dive on AUKUS and a few other awkward things happening in the world. We're going to move on from that. I'm going to now go to, we're still on Sydney Morning Herald. Let's go to US, UK, and Australia release statement about Japan joining AUKUS. Wow, this is Sydney Morning Herald for you. Sydney Morning AUKUS. Join it. Okay, The Guardian. What's happening there? Apart from support The Guardian, fund independent journalism with $17 per month. Look, have you seen their behind the scenes? These people have all got money, okay? You should be funding people who are independent, who are not afraid to tell the truth, who are not afraid to not be impartial, who are not afraid to share everything and connect the dots and show you the patterns of the world. You should join us, the Daily Egg. We're looking for sponsors and patrons. Why? Well, we'll let you know. Ask for our media kit. But back to the news. So, Guardian Essential poll says the voters back coalition super for Homes and Green's housing policy. The housing situation and the superannuation situation in Australia, superannuation is the tax that gets taken out of your pay that is supposed to be invested. It's the Social Security. Thank you. And most of us have lost huge chunks of money via our superannuation funds. So great, but you can't actually get your superannuation funds. You can't access them until you're at retirement age, or we were allowed to access during the pandemic because we didn't have funds coming through. So people were allowed to access their super. People who had mortgages, people who needed to, people who need money, and that's about 8 billion of us. But the housing system in Australia is a problematic. Why? Because profits. Why are things so expensive? Because profits. Why is the world going to shit? Because of profits. Who wants these profits? Are you seeing them? Are you seeing them, darling?
What?
Profits?
No.
Well, I'm not. Are you? Right. Okay. Let's see what else says. So, Tony Abbott didn't want women in his senior ministry. Former Deputy Liberal leader claims. The former Deputy Liberal leader is Julie Bishop. And, I did like her. I don't know if any of these people have the interests of the greater good at heart. A lot of people are just standing up for their, well, that's Julie Bishop was a real success for, Eurostream feminism, I guess. But she had, I like her. But anyway, she is also a former foreign minister, and I didn't mind her as a foreign minister. But they always put women, this is what they do, the Eurostream constructs, they put women in positions like foreign minister or deputy minister, or go and speak for us at the UN and tell the UN that we're assholes. So that's what the state of America is doing now. The White House is sending Black American women to the UN to speak for them. So, and I mentioned Tony Abbott yesterday because Tony Abbott once used to be the minister. His portfolio included women and First Nations people of Australia. And now Julie Bishop is saying Tony Abbott didn't want women in his senior ministry. Hey, Abbott, you're a dick. But I think he's also foreign minister. Please, Lord, no. I think he was going to be ambassador or something in the UK. This is insane. This is, And I remember, that's right, 11 years, so Julie Bishop, right? 11 years since she was appointed foreign minister and 5 since she quit politics after the Liberal Party rejected her as prime minister in favor of Scott Morrison. How did that work out for us Australians? Not good. What's Scott doing now? Probably in Hawaii doing some marketing campaign or the other. Anyway, we're going to move out of Australia. We're going to go and see what's happening in Fiji. Oh, goodness me. From the Fiji village, Fiji will become a nation of zombies if nothing is done about drugs. And that was said by Tiko Nduandua, who is the Minister for Home Security? Home Affairs and Immigration. So, Minister for Home Affairs and Immigration, Tiko Nduandua, says the issue of drugs in Fiji is second only as a matter of threat to climate change. And if nothing is done, Fiji will become a nation of zombies. Right. So this is because a week ago, a bag containing methamphetamines washed ashore just in the Yasawas, which is a little group of islands. Beautiful. Everywhere in Fiji is beautiful. And at the same time, such drugs washed up in northern Australia. So it came from somewhere up there. And it washed down in northern Australia and then down to Fiji. But don't let that. Fiji, unfortunately, has had a thriving drug trade for decades. Because I remember in the 70s and 80s, splashed on the front page of the newspapers would always be drugs smuggling. People were caught at Nadi airport back when Nadi and Fiji was the hub. Nadi was the hub for flying en route, etc. Drugs are a huge problem in Fiji. And I do want to do an actual deep dive on that because I do feel that Fiji especially could benefit very, very much from things like cannabis tourism. Regulated and controlled. And I tell you now, no one is going to... Of course, you've got to have psychological things into place. You've got to take alcohol out of the mix completely. Alcohol should not be in the mix anywhere. There should be psychological tests for all of this stuff. But cannabis tourism is something else we can do a deep dive on. Yes, Thailand tried it and they're going to end it at the end of the year. But I think that is because they saw how well it did succeed. So they're going to cite the few cases where cannabis is absolutely negative. And that is for the kind of person taking it and the lack of regulation, and that's when anything can become negative. People can actually have issues drinking too much water, okay? So, Fiji does have issues, yes. Fiji has got a lot of other issues other than drugs. Why are people turning to drugs? Why don't people want to ask that? Both as to get their mind off things and as a career, path. If you made this a legal thing, if you made this a cultural tourism thing, if you made this a destination thing, I tell you, Fiji will flourish. Flourish. But we're going to go back to the news and we'll do a deep dive on that another time. I'd love you to do the deep dive with me on this one, darling.
Sure.
So, of course, we've got Syed Qayyum and Sanim to appear in court, Bainimarama and Sharma back in court for health ministry. It's always political. Everyone's back in court. Everyone sues everyone there. Everyone does all sorts of things. For an island paradise, it sure is a paradox. And that's because of the damn state of Americans who couldn't help but need to conquer that beautiful group of islands, the archipelago, back in the 1800s. And ever since then, there's been problem after problem after problem. Now we're going to go to Reuters. Oh, we must talk about the fact that the state of America experienced the solar eclipse. And they had the path of totality. And it's still standing. I thought the path of totality would show some other things, but it didn't. Anyway, so yes, it happened, and that was all wonderful, and it went across Mexico as well. And so throngs of sky watchers across North America gazed upward at a blackened sun in the midday dusk on Monday, celebrating with cheers, music, and matrimony. The first total solar eclipse to darken the continent in 7 years. Well, there you go. That's not the only eclipse darkening that continent, but we're talking about solar eclipse here. And so nobody went lunatic. Let's see, because the reason why we had a solar eclipse is because the moon was in the middle of the earth and the sun. So, traditionally, really, we all went a bit lunatics around this time because, what was that? Why is there darkness in the middle of the day? What's going on? We're going crazy.
The earth must be flat.
The earth must be flat. So, as you had said, if on a clear day, can flat earthers see, I don't know, White House?
Yeah, probably.
Uluru. What else is out there? They can see the gold. Yeah, or they can see
360 view of the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look, I really love this bubble they live in. Yeah. It's great. It's really great.
Sit on your roof and grab a.
Look, I wouldn't mind doing that. I like sitting on roofs.
Yeah, me too.
Roofs, whatever.
Roofs.
Yeah, I think so. So the solar eclipse happened. Of course, it didn't happen. We felt I neglected to mention quite a few things in yesterday's The Daily Egg. For starters, we are no longer in Australia. In some states only. Some states don't adhere to it. I don't think Queensland does. It puts everybody out of whack completely. If Australia cannot synchronize our times, if our federal law, if our state laws are so different from each other, how is this supposed to be a country of unity? Where are we putting the us in Australia? Where is that? Oh, no, sorry, it's Aucas. Aucas. Anyway, so the us in Australia is US. Oh, of course, because in the middle of Australia, we've got a little bit of the US. Oh my God. Anyway. I did forget to say that daylight saving ended on Sunday. We woke up with an extra hour and an extra pep in our step. And you and I, we were just cleaning all weekend and, cleaning house and cleaning up things and figuring things out.
Unblocking.
This is a tip. If you are feeling a little bit blocked and you can't think straight, go iron. I know, right? Go iron, because ironing wrinkles out is really, really satisfactory. Don't worry about your face. Look, just worry about your clothes and your psyche. Iron the wrinkles out of your psyche, and then you will look at yourself differently. Literally too. Iron the wrinkles out of your psyche. Where were we, friends? We were talking about daylight saving has ended, and we're back in a normal time. And now we also had the solar eclipse for Australia. Around our regions, we were around 4:40 a.m. on Monday is when the solar eclipse mattered to us, because it happened. Of course, we say it happened on April the 8th, but only in that time zone and only in the state of America. We were far too ahead of the solar eclipse. So in Australia, we were ahead of the game. Ahead of it all. Not really. So I guess it must be time for us to wind down. So I'm going to quickly read the other articles here. I actually wanted to read something really interesting to you about this, let me tell you, some news pieces here that I couldn't get into that I should be reading. Listen, from the ABC, I'm going to go back to Australian Broadcasting Corporation. The rise of financial sovereignty and why some Australians believe they don't have to pay tax. Huh. Okay, well, look, that's cool, and I'm going to read some things out about that later. And there's another headline here. There's an influencer says earning money is masculine and tells women to focus on cooking and preparing a clean space. An Aussie influencer living in Dubai has sparked backlash after making a string of extraordinary claims about how women should live their lives. He's a personal trainer and one of those that I'm not even going to go there. What the hell are these influencers doing telling the world what women and world what they should be doing? Influencer, I am not going to make fun of it, but I find the term very funny because the word itself is interesting and should be applied to people who can in some way influence. I don't necessarily like the word. I think influencer shows that people can be easily influenced. I like the word, well, it's not a word. The term I would apply is introducer or connector or informer. But again, informer is a tattletale word, instead of someone who is sharing information. But influencer is such a noble word for what it is these people do. They influence you to buy more products. That's the kind of person you want, telling you what to do. So not only are people, this is another question I need to ask you. Why do people accept this? And we'll get to that another time. Are there any other news headlines I can read out to you? Other than, let's see what's happening with Trump. From the Associated Press, Trump's abortion statement angers conservatives and gives the Biden campaign a new target. Donald Trump still says he's proud of the Supreme Court justices he nominated who overturned Roe versus Wade. But get this, Trump declines to endorse a national abortion ban, which is why he's offending and angering the conservatives. Trump declines to endorse a national abortion ban. He says limits should be left to the states. Oh my God, seriously, what is going on? So Trump is always going to be against whatever the sway is. He's just a stirrer. And oh my God, this is really not a good photograph of him. Look at that orange tan. He's like a tall Oompa Loompa, except the Oompa Loompas had some talent. Oh my gosh. Oh, is that tan shaming? I'm sorry. Oh, as a brown woman, I kind of understand what that's all, like. Anyway, so he has declined to endorse a national abortion plan. Dwayne and I have said this, that if Trump was surrounded by people who had good intentions and who had the bigger picture and the greater good in mind, they could sway this orange Joffrey. I call him Joffrey from that Game of Boring Thrones, or whatever, Game of Moans. If he was surrounded by good people, Trump could change so much in the way that Taylor Swift supposedly has that much power. Now, she's an influencer. Actually, Tree Payne, her publicist, is the actual power. Taylor, yeah, she just wants to, grab Grammys and the hearts of heartbroken young Eurostream women. Okay. But Trump is definitely someone, because he's just a dummy. And literally, he could be a ventriloquist's dummy, and that's what he is. He is being manipulated into being the way he is. People like that who lead with an ego, God, all you need is just oh, you look so good today, Mr. Trump, and yes, what can I do for you? We all know that kind of person who is so easily manipulated as long as you suck their egos. Fellatio, my friends, isn't just a physical act. And with that, we will now move to Studio K. What's happening in Studio K? Look, you know what's happening in Studio K? I'm going to tell you a story about this. Yeah, look at that. Look at my face. That is a look of who the hell gives a shit about you. But we'll talk more about that in Studio K. Come join us, my friends. Let's go. Look, we will have a bit of a red eclipse. The reason why I'm wearing red, I should tell you, is this. Because Today is a special day in the Hindu calendar. I am not a practicing Hindu. I can't even say I am Hindu. But what I am is someone who was brought up Hindu. And I do like all of these actual religious festivities. I know there's quite a few going on around this time around the world. We've got, we had Easter, before Easter, or was it after Easter? We had Holi, and of course we're in Ramadan. And well, the new moon wasn't sighted last night in Saudi Arabia, which means that it is not Eid tonight. Eid is the breaking of fast. It is when all people who are of Islamic faith, who are Muslim, they then break their fast that they've been doing for a month, which is Ramazan actually, but Ramadan is what it came to be known because of the language differences. But in Urdu, it's Ramazan, and yes, so it's not Eid, not Eid tonight. Eid is tomorrow, April the 10th. So for Muslims who are fasting, I can imagine that it may be a real test to faith, hunger, etc. And I don't really know all the stipulations of that. But you know what? It is also based on some practical aspects and where it was, because in heat, you should eat less. And it's necessary to cleanse yourself occasionally. The body is wonderful. It's a natural detoxer. So you don't need to detox your body, really, unless, of course, you've filled your body with chemical and toxins and poisons like alcohol and some of the food we eat. And not just some of the food we eat, processed shit and all of that, but also where was that food grown? The soil filled with pesticides. And a lot of the food is genetically modified, of course. Beware of anything that does not have seeds. That, my friend, is slightly annoying, actually. Where was I? So yes, today is the start of Chaitra Navratri. It is in honor of Durga, the goddess Durga. And somewhere in there also, in the 9 days, now Navratri literally means 9 nights. And it is a 9-night celebration of the goddess Durga. There's twice a year, Navratri, the 9 nights. And it's actually, for me, I feel it is all of these are practices that, oh God, I hope I haven't been rustling against the, sorry, let me just put it somewhere that it won't rustle. There you go. What's a bra for? It's certainly not to keep your breasts uplifted, because bras, by the way, are not good for your pectoral muscles. But we have all now been conditioned. Let me apologize for the digression and let me go back to what I'm talking about. A very holy thing of Navratri. Again, I am not religious, but I do have faith and I do believe in divinity. Navratri, Eid, Easter, which is, let's face it, a global festivity, not really Christian. It's been taken from all sorts of pagan festivities and Egyptian festivities. There's a little bit of Hinduism in there as well, but it's still beautiful for what it means. And of course, it commemorates someone who was born in Palestine. So the fasting thing was Ramadan, yes. So I believe it was, I know that the practical part of it was in heat, and especially during the hottest times of the year for that region. Hello, darling. I'm now talking about what is happening around these times. We're wearing red to commemorate Chaitra Navratri, which is to honor and pray to the goddess Durga, who is one of the forms of Shakti. Shakti is the primordial force, the ether, the true force of life. And from that comes everything else. But this is not a thing about Hinduism. This is about just what we're doing and all those things. As I said, Eid, the new moon was not sighted in Saudi Arabia. So Eid is not happening until Wednesday, April 10th. It should be on April 9th, well, tonight, because the new moon was actually April 8th, so it should be around this time. But it wasn't sighted. And because this is a leap year, so that extra day can really affect the calendar in so many crazy ways, all these festivities, etc. So Eid al-Fitr is the breaking of the fast. And for me now, I do think, oh gosh, that is one extra day on a very, very hard thing asked of the people of this faith. And great, show your commitment to the faith. Show that you are ready to cleanse yourself and be rid of, dependency. And that's what faith is, really. To be able to rid yourself of dependency. And they call that attachment because they want us all to be dependent on a system that isn't always in our favor. That may sound a bit cryptic, but I'm trying also to not be rude about everything. I don't mean to be rude. Please understand. I have no intent to be rude nor to offend. I do love all the religions in what they were originally for, as a form of guidance for people who did not know what to do, and as a way for us all to unite and find common unity and create a community. However, look, I don't know. I don't know why I keep also coming back to the camera, because I do have a microphone on, so I can be all the way back here and not be so close as to show you my pores. But look inside me. This is who I am. So what are we going on to? I had shown this photograph. Oh my Lord. What is the juice today? We're going to be talking some stories about...
Been scrolling the right.
Show me, darling. What have you got to share for the Daily Catch? The Daily Catch is our segment here where we are now sharing things that have caught our attention. What's caught your attention? On the gram. Only on the gram. Share yours.
Well, I mean, I've got a video here of someone watching the solar eclipse from an airplane.
Holy moly.
It was quite interesting. Can I show them?
I think you can show it, but can we attribute this to someone? Where did you get this from?
This is from We the Ether.
We the Ether. No, we can't do videos on this. But what a shame.
Yeah.
Somebody captured, so we'll put links to certain things. So somebody captured the solar eclipse on mid-flight.
So I've got another one from Outstanding Screenplays.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's a quote by Jordan Peele, the director, actor, comedian.
Oh, Jordan Peele. God, thank God. Jordan Peele, yes.
The difference between comedy and horror is the music.
This is true.
I mean...
This is true because I have seen this experiment done with the movie Babe, the Australian movie about the pig, Babe.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Baram you. Music, so if you change the music and around it, it either becomes ominous or kind.
Yeah.
Because particularly with that movie, it worked because animals, right? So live action, so they've had to train these animals into acting like, well, what's the term? Anthropomorphize it?
Yeah.
To make them human. And they changed and they showed the effects of how music can change things. So absolutely.
Yeah.
So what Jordan Peele has said is correct. The difference between horror and comedy is music.
Yeah.
Is that the difference between the world? What's the difference between the horrors of the world? Why? We use all sorts of things to make something, okay, so it's heinous, the war in Europe against Ukraine and Putin's invasion, right? That was the general term.
Yeah.
Consensus. How could this happen? Because we weren't, in the last 100 years, we weren't used to seeing the Europeans scrambling in war. Of course, that was 100 years ago. I did say 100 years ago, their actions, their insecurities, their need to conquer and kill is what has created the world we live in today. We have a chance, and that is on choice, to actually change the world 100 years from now. Not in our lifetime, folks, but maybe in our lifetime, we can change the world in the present moment for the people who have never, ever gotten to experience the world's bounty, its privilege, its peace, its bliss. 100 years ago, there were heinous crimes committed against human beings. And now, wow.
Still.
These human beings, some of these human beings are committing heinous crimes against other human beings. And you know what? The human beings who are having their, the heinous crimes committed against them, people of the Middle East, well, do you wonder why they set out to do the heinous things they did? And the terrorism? What did I have to tell you about Afghanistan and what it used to be like before? I do have something, but it's somewhere in my mind, a library right now, so I'll come back to you on that one. Well, what did we want to talk to you about on the juice? But let me get to you first about this damn story about this damn idiot. And this is somewhere, 1997 or 1998. I was the promotions and publicity director. Let's just of that's me. I look like an idiot. Okay, am I showing that correctly?
So unimpressed.
Yes, I am unimpressed because regular readers and viewers, etc., would know that I am not a fan of the British royal family. I'm not a fan of the royal family, full stop. I'm not a fan of this idea of people ruling us. I like hierarchy, so okay. I do like seeing queens and princesses and kings, whatever. I do like seeing, I like celebrities. I like people who I held up with hierarchy as long as we're all, we have equality in that none of us are struggling. From equality comes equity. We talk about the fact that this is a time of equality now because that's what diversity has done. It's diluted everything. So now it's going to become an equal, a level playing field. And from that equality comes equity, because equity is merit-based. Do you actually deserve where you are right now? If you don't, do something about it. Not easy, I know, but this is not the how to help you time. We're here to share information time. So this story, right? Let me get to it. I was promotions and publicity, the director of this corporation back then, and it was a radio corporation. It is still, look, it's FBC, Fiji Broadcasting Corporation now. Back then, it was Island Networks Corporation Limited, and I was promotions publicity director and on-air host for Bulla FM. So, this idiot came to, I guess, represent Mummy and do a bit of a walkthrough of the Commonwealth that they used to own. Oh, we don't own them anymore, Mummy, but they still love us. They still want us to own them. And this is my face. This is my face, okay?
But, knowing what we know about him now, imagine what he was really doing there.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yep.
People had said to me that he did a double take when he saw me, right? And he was like, and then he started asking questions. So but because of my accent, I think he was surprised to hear the accent and the way I spoke. But I was also, because it's also the way I actually, because back in those days, and I grew up at a time when we used to say, "How do you do?" And when you say "How do you do," which is a very archaic English, and I do have the origins of that, but I won't share it right now because I can't quite remember it. When you say "How do you do," in return, you say "How do you do?" You don't actually say "I'm very well, thank you," or whatever. "How do you do's proper answer is "How do you do?" How do you do? And so I had said "How do you do?" and he went, "How do you do?" So I'm like, yeah, fucking wanker, impressed by the fact that I'm a female speaking your accent, aren't you?
Brown.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So he asked me what I did, and I said I'm on air. And of course, he must have been, like, oh, they've got a British sounding person on the air. Oh, mummy, I must tell you what they're doing down there. I must cough too. Oops, sorry, right in your ear. My apologies.
How exciting.
So that was 1997, 1998. And my thing with Andrew is that, look, he was the spare, I think. Or was it Anne? I don't know who the spare is out of that. It's Air and a spare, and I'm not sure. But Anne is the only sensible one. And there is a fourth, so insignificant, people forget. He's like the third member of Apollo whatever.
Who?
That landed on the moon. So it's Edward, who is the youngest. And he seems to be the most sane. Actually, no, it's Anne who's the most sane. And we all knew that back then. But wow, people love royalty. Which brings me to the juice, darling, very quickly. Mm-hmm. Why do people accept oppression? Why do people readily accept that they're owned by other people? Because if they're ruled by other people, I guess, why do people accept oppression?
I've seen it play out.
Because of our unpopular opinion that we had, and we brought that up. We broached that subject yesterday. Please do share your unpopular opinions. But an unpopular opinion I have is that people of multiculture enjoy being colonized. Ooh.
Is that based on observation?
Yes.
Because I've seen it. I've seen it.
A person of multiculture will always take a Eurostream person's side over another person of multiculture.
So many times.
I've experienced this myself when we were doing some work, free work, mind you, with a person of Pacific origin, and it had to do with a lot of white Australians. And we looked at all of this, and I look at all this, and I think, well, they're just playing. They're just playing from their industries. They're all the white people involved in this particular thing was a fashion shoot. They all just, playing. Oh, let's help the poor Pacific people. Oh goody, another way for us to look good. Say the white people,
Diversity box. Check.
Oh my God, diversity! Look! We can show it. We can show how diverse we are. Oh! Get the brown people. Get the Pacific brown people. Don't pay them anything because, well, look, we've got no money. We've got prestige, but we've got no money. I'm sorry, my excitement about that, showing how excited those people got, kind of put hair all over my microphone. It's so frustrating, and because I've also seen it in people of multiculture who have privilege and status, and how they just dabble in helping other people. But anyway, back to this thing. So I have, I see how that Pacific person viewed the white people, like, oh, they're just saints, they're angels for doing this for us. Bullshit. I could have done that shoot.
Yeah.
I could have done that shoot, and I could have actually gotten people paid in some way or the other. I know so many brown makeup and hairstylists. Hello, I was publicist and lead photographer for Pacific Runway. Did you see the immaculate makeup and hair on all our Pacific origin and all the multicultural models? Because Pacific Runway actually was about true diversity. That is diversity, when you see people from all different shades and racial groupings, etc. on that runway. That is diversity. And of course, because it's Pacific Runway, it is a little bit more skewed towards the Pacific origin. And one thing we do have to fight about in terms of Pacific representation, and I say we as a spokesperson for Pacific creativity, that you must understand the Pacific is Polynesia, Melanesia, and the United States of Micronesia. And it's not just Polynesian. So when people are especially in the Eurostream and Northern Hemisphere, etc., when they see anything Pacific, it's actually most likely to be Polynesian, like Moana. So you do have to understand that Polynesia does not represent Pacific, but they represent a great big slice, beautiful, section of the Pacific. And countries like Fiji are a mix of Polynesian and Melanesian, and the world, really. Indian ancestry, Chinese ancestry, all over the world. Oh my gosh. Anyway, why do people accept oppression? Why do people look up to, because it's the Stockholm syndrome thing.
That's a massive conversation to have.
So that's a deep dive conversation. Why do people accept their colonization? Because I see it also in the Eurostreams, in the societies outside of, say, the supposedly third world places, right? So not just, so I'm talking about second generation, third generation, people born in Eurostream societies, etc. It's like, oh, no one questions anything.
Yeah.
No one questions. I remember when I was photographing young, gorgeous young women who are models, and they were Sri Lankan and Indian and Fijian, etc. And I'm asking them, and I'm styling the shoot, and I'm dressing them in festival wear or going to the opera wear, or and I asked them, do you not? And they're like, oh, this is so nice to be dressed like this and styled like this, and oh yes, I've been to this, I've been to that, and went to the festival. And I'm like, well, do you not question why you don't see someone like you? And I remember the model just go, wow, yeah, so there's just no questioning.
I've been like that for a while because I had my racism fight when I was in my 20s, you know. I called out racism. I did the protests. I was, in solidarity with people of color and stuff. But yeah, I stopped caring because nothing was happening.
You
Nothing
haven't
was,
stopped caring.
No, not caring. Like, I just stopped the fight.
Okay.
Yeah?
Well, I am going to say something else more contentious. Well, welcome to the lives of our days.
What we do.
What I said yesterday, I actually think all of this fighting is making it worse because we're fighting against people who enjoy it because they have nothing else.
That's heavy.
So the more we fight, and it's the same thing, and this is what I was going to mention when I read the stories out about Gaza and Palestine and Israel, we've had to resort to childlike spelling and childlike tactics to play hide and seek with the people who rule the information highways that we're sharing information about. So they're making us talk in code, just for what? So that we can get the message out, or so we can get our platforms not banned. Now, so many of us use our platforms for sharing of information. We need to stand up for that information now. And regardless of what happens, and we're going to get suspended, we're going to get, whatever, say Palestine, say Israel, say Gaza, write it out. Yes, the algorithm bots are looking for all of those names, and that's what everyone's trying to be so cutesy about. But it makes it a bit, I don't know. I feel it dilutes it a little bit. I think people just start becoming, starts becoming a tribe of people who speak cutesy, stuff. I don't know. I do mean to, obviously. That's why I'm saying it. But I understand. Am I articulating what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
We are dumbing down our fight to survive. We're
playing the game.
We're playing their games. We are being now manipulated into diluting by making everything childlike in the way we write things and talk about things because we don't want to be banned. And all these people sorry, we're just checking something here. All these people. Oh my gosh. There's a lot of people also advocating for avoidance. Hey, Roz. There's a lot of people advocating out of avoidance. I see it. I personally know it because I know people who are falling to bits in their personal lives, but are advocating for especially Palestine. Palestine has really grabbed the world's attention now at a time when the world's people, individuals are very, very traumatized. I think if you go through time and say, well, were they traumatized 100 years ago when they were being, murdered by other people who didn't like them because they don't follow a religion we like. Excuse me? Do you know why all of this exists? Go back to the source as to why all of this exists. Why the Palestinians are being subjected to genocide because of the ex-European refugees that the US didn't want because they had nothing to do with them unless, of course, they want to create something with their riches. So here comes Hollywood. But what the US wanted was the ex-Nazis, who then they put in NASA because of German technology, my friends. And what they want that German technology for? To send their people to space and the moon before those damn Russians. Because damn you people, the state of America is the ruler. They're the police of the world. They own the world. They think they can fix the world. They think that they are their own superheroes that they have created to manipulate the rest of us into looking at the state of America as being the champion of the world. They lie to us blatantly in their movies. Look at their movies and they tell you how much they are destroying the world. But oh, don't worry, they'll save us too. Here they come to save the day.
No, but it's just a movie.
Oh yeah, fiction, fiction, not friction. Ooh. We seem to be a species that enjoys our oppression. It gives us purpose, or it gives us an excuse, and it gives us reason. What is yours? There are people advocating who don't actually like other people. And what are they doing it for? Because it gets them attention, and it also gets them away from thinking about themselves. Nothing is going to change unless we change ourselves individually. Nothing is going to change unless we change the way we talk to ourselves, about ourselves, and then we'll change the way we view the world. The threshold is our skin, is our vessel. Respect the skin you're in. And then maybe, just maybe, if each single person on this planet, that's 8 billion of us, actually decided, I'm going to change myself, well, maybe that would make 6 billion of us. That's still a majority. But anyway, there you go. That's that. So that's the story of this dickhead and me back in 1997. Andrew, what I was saying about Andrew, you know, he's just a product of his, and he's an entitled, spoilt, depraved. They think that that the world is theirs, so they have then no moral boundaries. So of course he's going to be, demanding young virgins for the royal, please. It was given to these people. It's ingrained. We talk about intergenerational trauma. Look at the intergenerational privilege these fuckers have. And who upholds it? All of us. Anyway, that's the Daily Egg for Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. No Eid today. Eid is, the new moon wasn't sighted. It's on April 10th. It is the start of Chaitra Navratri. I think the Jewish Passover is later on this month. April is a huge, and there's Ramadan, of course, Ramazan. There's Holi, etc. There's so much happening in April. It has got very much to do with the Northern Hemisphere's weather and agricultural practices that were very wonderfully and wisely, they decided, let's make these into religions so that people will actually stick to the rules, because people are naughty. People have free will. So people then think they've got to be guided with a stick or corralled and manipulated. Nope. All we've got to do is be given equity so that we can all live in peace and bliss and harmony and common unity. Thank you very much for being here. We'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Egg. That's it for now. Bye. Thanks, Dan.